Hospitality Tomorrow Gives is delighted to have with us PUNEET CHHATWAL. He's the MD and the CEO of IHCL, which is the home and the heart of ultimately the Tata Group and the Dodge brand. PUNEET, welcome, and thank you for joining us on Hospitality Tomorrow Gives.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Jonathan, for having me.
Yes. Great to have you.
PUNEET, it's quite special having you on because ultimately the idea of Hospitality Gives came from a conversation that Jonathan and I had with you, in which you actually shared what you have been doing through the Dodge brand across all of your properties for frontliners, be they medical staff across the Indian subcontinent, or are they actually your own people in the hotels. Can you please share a little bit about what exactly have you been doing and how did this all start?
Well, it's a wonderful story. I think around the 21st of March, a friend of mine who's a celebrity chef in India is my class fellow. He called me and said, you know, we must do something. And I said, what do you want us to do? He said, we should start giving meals to the COVID hospitals because these are government facilities and the people don't get the kind of nutrition they should get. I said, okay, we can do that, but what will we achieve? And he said, you will see, if we start, everyone else will follow. And that's exactly what happened. 22nd was a national curfew day, and 24th in India, the lockdown was announced. And we started supply of meals on the 22nd of March with one hospital, which got extended to 6 hospitals in Mumbai, followed by a few hospitals in Bangalore, a few in Delhi, a few in Coimbatore, a few in Agra. And all the medical staff was provided the food with the picture of this celebrity chef called Sanjeev Kapoor. As especially all the ladies in India, no matter what age group, they love, learning how to cook from him. So there was a reassurance that you're getting Sanjeev Kapoor's food besides the Taj packing on top of it. So I think what was just an idea, it was executed very fast, and the demand kept increasing. As you must have seen on the television, the migrant workers returning home. At the peak, we were providing 60,000 meals a day. And till date, we have crossed more than 2.5 million. I think we'll end up very soon at a figure of 3 million meals. And for our frontliners was very important because we started hosting the medical staff in our hotels because they were not accepted back in the communities they were living in. That was one, to reduce the commuting time so that they could work more. So we helped the government. We started hosting them for less than $20 a day, including 3 meals, including their laundry. And we subsidized all these efforts through a trust that we had formed after the 26/11 attacks called the Taj Public Service Welfare Trust, which in parallel started raising money and was able to raise something north of $5 million in these 110 days to support all these efforts, because where was this money going to come from? So for every dollar spent, let's say by the Mumbai Municipal Corporation, it was matched by the contribution from Taj Public Service Welfare Trust, which got a lot of funding from both Tata Group companies, but outside banking sector, Bollywood stars, individuals, small and large, and that's how almost $4 million came together, $4 to $5 million. So ultimately, we are now continuing still, but would like to raise more funds, as we don't know and we don't see an end to this as we would like to. So that's why I'm here at HTGives talking to you.
PUNEET, excellent. Thanks for that summary of what you're up to and what you're doing. How many of your frontliners are actually working on this initiative?
So I think that's an interesting question, Jonathan. So 70% of our hotels were shut down because of the lockdown. 30% that were open were like either partially open or semi-open or open for hosting the medical staff, like in Mumbai. So in Mumbai, I would say 40% of our workforce was always working throughout the lockdown period. We were hosting on an average 600 room nights a day. Till date, we have crossed more than 60,000 room nights, hosting the medical staff. And the frontliners were actually risking their lives in the beginning because the threat to human life was far higher than we perceive it today, because all the statistics started coming in later. But the way this COVID-19 spread, I have to say my heart goes out to all our frontliners and our team, which has done a phenomenal job because they stayed in the hotels. We did not let them go home so that they are not exposed to any of the virus situations. The hotels were well equipped, were well sanitized, but still they were serving the staff which was in touch with the COVID patients. And that's not an easy thing for them, for the staff or the frontliners. And we call them the associates. So for the frontliners or associates to tell their families that this is the kind of service they are doing was not easy. And some of them, as life would have it, also got infected. And then we gave them the best of the medical facilities through the Taj Public Service Welfare Trust, the best of the meals, looked after their families, and it created a chain. So normally that kind of medical facility is also very expensive in India. But we said, you risk your lives, money is not what counts. We will take care of you and your families. And that's been a part of the ethos and the values of the Tata Group for 150 years. So nothing very unusual for us to do. We've always done it, and we've done it this time. Only the numbers were higher and the time period is much longer, and there seems to be no end to it.
Puneet, with what you're doing on this front, are you seeing your peers in the industry doing the same thing? Are you showing examples of how to do it and learning from each other?
Well, of course, whatever we do, we are sharing with all. But I think because of the way the values of the group have been positioned by the founder, that the community is not just another stakeholder, rather the purpose of the existence of any business. So it's very deeply embedded in our soul. So I think we end up taking what we call the front role or the forewriter kind of a role, or being, playing the role model in this, and we share whatever we do. We created a lot of programs for our frontliners, like not just communicating on a weekly basis, not just the senior management meeting on a daily basis, the general managers communicating with the staff, but we created programs on a one-on-one help, which we call like employee assistance program, or another program we tied up with a group called Healthify Me. We created another program for the employee learn at home. And so a lot of things so that the employees stay engaged. This can be very demoralizing, sitting at home in a lockdown, not getting to work and learning about all those people who are losing jobs. So we did not lay off any of our permanent employees, neither did we cut their salaries till date. These short-term P&L tricks we don't use as a group, but if it keeps going on and on, we'll have to figure out creative ways of dealing with it. So till now, we managed it quite well. We have kept the morale high. And that is something that is embedded in our culture, which we call Tajness. And at no cost, we wanted to lose a percentage or a portion of the Tajness that exemplifies us in the way we do things.
Puneet, I know Anita will want to ask a question, but just one more from me. Obviously, you're dealing with owners of your various properties where you have management contracts, and of course, they're going to need to make redundancies within the hotels. How are you dealing with those staff that have been made redundant?
That's a very good question, Jonathan. You can't do much because that is the challenge of the whole model of management contracts, especially with all other brands having done that globally. So what we did is we've come up with another program where all the executives in the company, without exception, we launched something called Taj for Families and asked for voluntary contribution. Those contributions will again go to Taj Public Service Welfare Trust. and the less fortunate ones who lost their jobs working for other owners, but the property carried one of our brand names, or let's say the Taj name, we will be helping them out financially for up to what we would call 2 months of minimum wages. So that plan is in place. Why 2 months is that's the maximum amount that would be allowed under the trust laws. So once that is utilized, we'll see what's next. But at the moment, that plan has just been launched 10 days ago, and we will be helping out the less fortunate associates in third-party companies which still have the benefit of our brand and our distribution system and have carried our name.
Brilliant. Puneet, thank you. And I must say, I'm enjoying the conversation that you're having with Jonathan, because it taps into something really critical about what HTGives is trying to do. As you know, back in March, at the same time that you brought this initiative to life, it was very much a time at which Jonathan and I came together and simply wanted to create a place for the community of hospitality to try to figure out what's going on. We're 6 months into this now, and people are frustrated, they're fearful, and a lot of people are forgetting. They're forgetting what is now a defining chapter in all of our lives. And I love what you've done, because you said right at the beginning that your colleague who inspired you to do this knew that this was going to trigger other people to also step up and do something and not forget these heroes that are on the front line. I'm curious, as we wrap up this little interview, in all that you've seen in the last 6 months, you as an incredible leader are also an incredible heart as a person. Is there anyone or anything you have seen that you define as exemplary during these last 6 months that all of us in the Hospitality Tomorrow community should never forget and should almost be a source of inspiration of why we need to keep giving? Anything you can reflect back on?
I might read out a quote to you from one of the famous leaders that the Tata Group has had, Mr. J.R.D. Tata. And, he once said, no success or achievement in material terms is worthwhile unless it serves the needs or interest of the country and its people and is achieved by fair and honest means. And I think this pandemic has taught all of us that you can have a lot, you can lose it very quickly. The industry can be very rich and can become very poor very quickly. Today, the hospitality industry is on its knees. Everybody is talking about, survival. God knows when the revival and thrival will come. I remain very optimistic personally, with the famous thing saying that this too shall pass. I'm quite sure this too shall pass. As we speak, I'm in Germany, where people are not obligated to wear masks. The last few days, I tried to go to a restaurants. They were all sold out and you had to book a table in advance. So we are seeing definitely some green shoots. Hopefully when I come and see you next week in London, we will have a similar feeling. And ultimately, the industry has a bright future. This traveling through Zoom and visiting places through Zoom will also have an end very soon. And I think meeting and doing business in person, traveling and seeing places live, had a glorious past and will have definitely a far more glorious future going forward.
Stunning. Puneet, before I hand over to Jonathan to close, genuinely, thank you for planting the seed of this idea. It is incredibly important, and it's become one of our passion projects during COVID-19. So from my side, thank you for being the source of inspiration behind Hospitality Tomorrow Gives. And I'll now close it with Jonathan.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Puneet. When we kicked off Hospitality Tomorrow series and went around the world and you kindly hosted a 2-hour session with us, we learned a lot back then what was happening, and we were all learning from each other what was happening to the industry and where it was going and how different leaders were dealing with this crisis. And it's absolutely inspiring to see what you're doing with your staff, your frontliners. And I think it's a real example for the rest of the industry to learn what you're doing and how you're managing to cope and how your staff are respecting and dealing with the current crisis. So congratulations to you on everything you're doing for Taj and for the industry, because you're certainly showing leadership here, and that's what Hospitality Tomorrow Gives is all about, and also trying to raise money for what you're doing.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for your kind words. And yeah, it's not only what we are doing, is also what you all are helping us do. So I think, and I hope this initiative of yours will be another feather in your cap, as you have demonstrated consistently for the last 20 plus years, Jonathan.
Right.
And this time even with help from Anita. So
absolutely. Listen, thank you so much, Puneet.
Thank you. Thank you
Take
both of
care
you.
of yourself.